Did you ever feel uncomfortable when nobody knows what is happening next? You are going on a trip and someone says, "We'll just figure it out when we get there." Everyone else smiles. They think it sounds spontaneous, relaxed, maybe even fun. But inside your mind, something tightens. What time are we leaving? How are we getting there? Where are we staying? What if the place is closed? What if someone forgets something important? What if the whole day becomes chaotic because nobody thought 2 steps ahead? To some people, a plan feels like a cage. To you, it may feel like oxygen, and this is where people often misunderstand planners. They assume people who always need a plan are controlling, boring, anxious, or unable to enjoy life. But the psychology is usually more interesting than that. For many people, planning is not about controlling everyone. It is about calming the mind, because when the future feels unclear, the brain does something very natural. It starts filling in the blanks, and the brain is not always gentle when it fills in blanks. If there is no plan, it may imagine delays, conflict, embarrassment, wasted money, missed opportunities, awkward silences, disappointment, or things going wrong in ways no one else has even considered yet. That is one reason planners plan. They are not only organizing the outside world, they are reducing the number of open tabs inside their head. Think of 2 people getting ready for the same event. Person 1 says, "I'll see how I feel tomorrow." Person 2 checks the time, the route, the weather, the outfit, the backup option, and whether the phone is charged. From the outside, person 2 can look intense, but inside their mind, every small decision they make removes one little piece of uncertainty, and each removed uncertainty gives the brain a tiny sense of relief. Psychologists sometimes talk about something called intolerance of uncertainty. It means that uncertain situations feel more stressful to some people than they do to others. For one person, "we'll see" feels light and open. For another person, "we'll see" feels like standing in a hallway with every door half open and no idea which one is about to swing at them. The situation may be the same. The nervous system's reaction is different. People who need plans often have brains that are very active in the future. Their attention does not stay only on what is happening now. It travels ahead. It runs simulations. It compares outcomes. It looks for weak points. This can be exhausting, but it can also be useful. A planner notices the thing everyone else forgot. They bring the charger, they check the booking, they leave 10 minutes earlier, they remember the deadline. They think about the one detail that could ruin the whole day if nobody handled it. That is why planners often become the invisible safety system in a group. When everything goes smoothly, people may not notice their effort. When something almost goes wrong, everyone suddenly becomes grateful that the planner thought ahead. But here is the strange part. Planning gives the strongest relief before the event, not always during the event. The plan is like a mental map, and the moment the map exists, the brain can stop trying to draw it over and over again. This is connected to cognitive load. Your working memory can only hold a limited amount at once. If your mind has to remember every possible task, risk, timing issue, and decision, it becomes overloaded. A written plan takes those thoughts out of the head and puts them somewhere stable. That is why even a simple list can feel calming. It is not magic, it is external memory. The brain no longer has to keep whispering, "Don't forget this, don't forget that. What about this, what about that?" The paper remembers for you. This is also why planners often love calendars, notes, reminders, routines, spreadsheets, packing lists, and schedules. These tools are not just productivity objects. They are emotional regulation tools. They create a sense of structure, and structure tells the nervous system something is being held. For some people, the need for a plan comes from personality. People who are high in conscientiousness often prefer order, preparation, and reliability. They feel more comfortable when tasks are clear and expectations are defined. These people may naturally think in steps. First this, then that. If this happens, do that. If that fails, try this. Their mind builds ladders. Other people think more like rivers. They adapt as they go. They follow the moment. They trust that the next thing will appear when they reach it. Neither style is automatically better. A river person can be flexible, creative, and relaxed. A ladder person can be reliable, prepared, and steady. Problems start when each person judges the other by their own nervous system. The spontaneous person looks at the planner and thinks, "Why are you making everything so serious?" The planner looks at the spontaneous person and thinks, "Why are you making everything unnecessarily risky?" This is why planning can become a relationship issue. It is rarely only about the plan, it is about what the plan represents. For the planner, the plan may represent safety, respect, responsibility, and peace. For the spontaneous person, too much planning may represent pressure, restriction, or lack of trust. So when someone says, "Why do you always need a plan?" the real question underneath may be, why does uncertainty feel so uncomfortable to you? And the answer often goes back further than the current situation. Some people became planners because chaos taught them to be. If you grew up around unpredictability, you may have learned early that preparation prevents pain. Maybe adults changed moods suddenly. Maybe plans fell apart. Maybe you had to manage things yourself. Maybe being unprepared led to criticism, embarrassment, or stress. So your brain learned a rule: if I think ahead, I can stay safe. That rule may have helped you for years. It may have made you competent, dependable, organized, the person who handles things. But a survival skill can become heavy when you have to use it all the time. Because the shadow side of planning is that the mind can start confusing preparation with protection. It begins to believe, if I plan enough, nothing bad will happen. But life does not work that cleanly. You can plan the route and still hit traffic. You can prepare the conversation and still be misunderstood. You can make the schedule and still feel overwhelmed. You can do everything right and still face something you did not predict. That is the painful truth for people who need a plan. Planning reduces uncertainty, but it cannot remove uncertainty completely. And when someone tries to remove all uncertainty, planning can turn into over-planning. That is when the plan stops helping and starts trapping. You spend more time preparing than doing. You delay starting because the conditions are not perfect yet. You become irritated when people change things. You struggle to rest because there is always another detail to organize. You feel responsible for preventing every possible problem. At that point, planning is no longer just structure. It has become a form of anxiety management. The mind is trying to buy certainty in a world that does not sell it. But there is a healthier version of planning. Healthy planning does not ask, how do I control everything? It asks, what do I need in place so I can respond better? That difference matters. A rigid plan says, this must happen exactly this way. A flexible plan says, this is the direction, and if something changes, I still have options. The best planners are not the people who predict every detail. They are the people who prepare enough to stay steady when reality moves. In psychology, there is a useful idea called implementation intentions. It means making a clear if-then plan. If I feel overwhelmed, then I will take 5 minutes and write the next step. If the train is delayed, then I will message ahead and check another route. If I avoid the task, then I will do the first 2 minutes only. This works because the brain does not have to invent a response in the middle of stress. It already has one ready. That is the real power of planning. A good plan saves your future self from making every decision under pressure. Still, people who always need a plan usually have one important lesson to learn. Peace cannot depend only on knowing what comes next, because there will always be moments where the next step is unclear. There will always be people who change their minds, days that go sideways, opportunities that arrive without warning, and problems that do not care about your schedule. So the deeper skill is not abandoning plans. It is building trust in yourself beyond the plan. Trust that if the plan changes, you can adjust. Trust that if something goes wrong, you can respond. Trust that being surprised does not mean being helpless, because underneath the need for a plan is often a deeper need. I want to feel safe enough to move forward, and that is completely human. So if you are someone who always needs a plan, it may mean your mind is careful. It may mean you are responsible. It may mean you notice consequences earlier than other people. It may mean uncertainty has not always been kind to you, but it may also mean you are learning a new balance. Plan enough to support yourself. Leave enough space to live, because the goal is not to become careless. The goal is to become flexible without feeling unsafe. And maybe the most powerful plan is the one that says, I know what I can do next, and if life changes, I will find the next step from there.